Ladies and gentlemen, my name is James Mejia, and I'm asking for your support and your vote on May the 3rd to become the next mayor of Denver. I'm a native of Denver, and I am part of this city that has grown up around me and has helped to raise me. I'm a product of parents who one generation, after being the first in their families, the only ones in their families to graduate from college, to make sure that through their sacrifice, that all 13 of their children made it to college. I'm here because now we as a city face similar sacrifices. And those sacrifices need to be made for my 3 children and for our children to make sure that the kind of opportunity that I've been given here are the same kinds of opportunities that all of our children have here in Denver. My name is James Mejia, and I'm asking for your support. Thank you. Well, I appreciate all the talk about economic development. And 3 weeks ago, we put out our economic development plan along the South Platte, where we see great potential to create new parks, transit-oriented development, and open up the river and give the river back to the people of Denver. I was glad to see Michael Hancock follow our program of Buy Denver initiative, where very importantly, if products can be sourced in Denver, products and services can be sourced in Denver, that they should be purchased in Denver by our government. I also believe that economically we need to push more direct flights out of DIA. And the last direct flight was a direct flight that I created with the help of the Economic Development Office to Mexico City. And also support of small business and reinvigorating the small business loan program, which accounts for 80% of our jobs in the last 5 years. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about budgets, we must understand that it's not hard to balance budgets. You can just say, take a 10% cut at one department or another department. It's more difficult to balance the budget well when you have trade-offs between the quality of parks, or library hours, or safety on the streets. Now those are the difficult decisions. And the hardest part when you're talking about balancing budgets is actually being the one that has to implement those budgets. The last time we had these kinds of budget issues, I was in Mayor Webb's cabinet. 10% budget cuts, 30% less water usage, and still managed in those years to expand our park system by 25%. It's the kind of leadership in bringing frontline decisions to the top, and it's the kind of leadership that means bringing efficiencies to all departments in the city. Thank you. "1869 should have been the beginning and the end of our city, when the Transcontinental Railroad bypassed Denver and instead connected through Cheyenne, Wyoming. But in that year, it was our Board of Trade that said, if the rest of the country is not going to connect to Denver, we're going to connect to the rest of the country. And so we built our own railroad from Denver to Cheyenne, and forevermore connected Denver to the rest of the country. It's that kind of pioneering spirit to create our own destiny that we're now drawing upon when we look at fast tracks. And when 39 mayors in the metro area can agree on an infrastructure, and when our cities can collectively agree to vote to put in fast tracks and create an infrastructure that's sustainable and gets people around without cars, that's a kind of initiative that I can support. Thank you. You know, the first time that I started paying attention to Denver politics was when I was in high school. And I remember a couple things that Mayor Pena said, because we're at a similar time of dire economic straits, and yet looking at what we wanted the city to become. And I remember one thing that stuck with me was him saying, we cannot cut our way to prosperity. We need to reinvest in the city. And he put on the ballot a measure. And City Council said there's no way that a measure that large will pass through Denverites. So it became 10 measures. And each and every one of those 10 measures passed, because when Denverites are shown leadership and good reasons for investing in our city, we do it. That's what we need this time, is good leadership in passing fast tracks. You know, a couple of years ago, I lost a very good friend of mine to cancer. And I remember what brought her comfort in her final days. She needed marijuana. That was her choice to use in her final days. And so I know that there are people who require medical marijuana to give them comfort for medical conditions. I feel it's unfortunate, however, that we rushed into providing marijuana throughout the city without really thinking through zoning issues, safety and effectiveness of the product, who was able to prescribe and who was able to obtain. And so I encourage all of us as a community to rethink what we've done and not be so hasty this time. It may come as a surprise that when you write your occupational privilege tax check for working in Denver, that check gets sent into the city of Denver, but then is processed out in Texas, and the jobs go with it. It may come as a surprise that when the DNC came to town, and it was a great time to showcase Denver, that of the $750,000 that was set aside for art, 0 of those dollars went to Denver artists. So not only do we have issues with the minority and women-owned business program, we have problems with keeping our business in town. So city leadership, when business is available in Denver, it needs to be procured in Denver, and that always needs to include the minority and women-owned business community. We have many issues within the city with regard to police cases and cases in the sheriff's department and how they've been handled. You know, when I went to visit the Booker family, when they came to town to protest the fact that the cases had not been resolved, you could see the anguish on their faces. And not just because they had lost one of their own, that they had lost someone that they loved, but there was anguish because there was no resolution to that case. There's no excuse for cases in the sheriff's department or police department to drag on for years, whether it's D. Herrera or Booker, that we, if we're held to the same standards in the criminal justice system and our cases are resolved in 6 months, the police department's cases need to be resolved as well. The family deserves better, and as mayor, not only would I go to reach out to the family, as I did with the Bookers, not only would I be there in their time of pain, but also be there to resolve quickly their cases. Thank you. I don't know about you, but when I hear the word gentrification, I think about values increasing and driving people out of their neighborhoods. And in our case, certainly in the city, it's been the neighborhood improves and all the people of color move out because they no longer, can afford to live in a neighborhood. I mean, we've seen that in maybe many neighborhoods. And as someone who, as a young person, was priced out of Northwest Denver, which was quote unquote gentrified, I think it's a shame. However, we need to improve our neighborhoods, but ensure that the people who are there get to stay there. So it's mixed use and mixed income neighborhoods that I think we should be promoting throughout our city. Ladies and gentlemen, nothing is more important to our community than the education of our children. It's the difference between home ownership or not. It's a difference between levels of salaries. It's the dream of every parent to be able to have their child go through the system successfully. But when 7% of our children from North or from West or from Montbello start freshman year and finish high school ready to go to college, we can do better than that. We must do better than that. There's no silver bullet to this issue, but the formula is well known. It's parental responsibility, it's strong school leadership, it's student involvement, and it's the community nurturing the schools. And whether charter or whether neighborhood, that formula has to be applied to every single school for teacher quality, teacher training, and giving them the resources to get the job done. I appreciate all the comments tonight and appreciate the many ideas that we've heard from the many candidates. And in fact, we've probably heard more similarities than we have differences tonight. And I appreciate the passion of the candidates and for all of you for looking at what's next for Denver. But let me tell you what we haven't heard tonight. We haven't heard about implementation. We haven't heard about executive management experience and being in the cabinet of a previous mayor. I'm the only one on this stage that can say the last time we had budget difficulties, I was at that table in the mayor's office with the mayor, making the difficult trade-offs and implementing in my department, the third largest department in the city, on what those difficult decisions needed to be made. I'm the only one that's led a delegation in both the governor's office and the city office of economic development of small businesses to another city to help them expand their markets and create jobs here at home. Led the delegations, organized the delegations, not one of many, but the one responsible for those delegations and that kind of job creation. When Mayor Hickenlooper was looking to build the Justice Center, the largest bond project in his administration, he looked to me and recruited me. It wasn't a job that I was looking for, and it wasn't one that I particularly wanted. But after 3 months, I relented, and my team brought that project in on time and on budget. I mean no disrespect to the legislative branch of government and very much honor the work that's been done here. But we're talking about hiring a CEO of the city, one who can lead and one who can manage. And I'm the only one that brings that kind of experience to lead the city. And I'm asking you for your support and your vote as we go forward. My name is James Mejia, and I ask for your vote on May the 3rd.